Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the wildest, most fascinating theories in the entire crypto space. It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, but it just might be the secret story of Bitcoin. We're talking about Satoshi's Horcruxes. I mean, just think about that for a second. This isn't just a fun metaphor. The theory we're about to unpack argues that Bitcoin's creator literally performed a kind of digital soul splitting, creating these Horcruxes to make sure the system could survive, even from himself. So the thinking goes that the man behind a Satoshi Nakamoto pseudonym, Dr. Craig Wright, intentionally splintered his control over Bitcoin. We're talking about his money, his patents, his genius, and in the end, his own identity. All of it, supposedly sacrificed to set Bitcoin free. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll walk through this incredible theory, step by step, from the very first Horcruxes to what's described as the ultimate identity sacrifice. But then, we're going to see how this entire elaborate story crashed headfirst into the cold, hard reality of a UK courtroom. You see, the whole core of this theory is this really radical idea. For Bitcoin to ever become a truly global neutral system, its own creator had to vanish. He had to become a ghost in his own machine, so that the machine could truly live forever. So the very first steps in this alleged grand plan were all about cutting ties to the two things that gave the creator immense power: his unbelievable fortune and his world-changing ideas. Okay, so the first so-called Horcrux was all about the money. The theory goes that the creator locked away his legendary Satoshi coins, the first Bitcoins ever mined, inside this now infamous legal vehicle, the Tulip Trust. Why? To make sure they could never be dumped on the market and used as a weapon. Yeah, you heard that right. 1.1 million Bitcoin. It's a fortune that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And according to this theory, it was all locked up in that legal structure. It was the first act of a creator deliberately tying his own hands. And this is where it gets really clever. Look at the strategic function here. This trust wasn't just some digital vault. It was a legal trap. It was designed to completely strip the creator of his own control and force any action to go through the court system. This is a massive deal because it subjects the creator to the rule of law, not the code is law ethos. All right, so next up was the intellectual Horcrux. The theory suggests that instead of hoarding all his knowledge, the creator basically externalized his genius. He transformed it into this huge library of patents, all managed by the blockchain research firm nChain. And this wasn't just for show. This created what's called a defensive perimeter of intellectual property. The whole point was to shield the original vision of Bitcoin, which is now known as Bitcoin SV or Satoshi Vision, and make sure that the core design couldn't be hijacked or corrupted by others. But, it wasn't just about the cash and the patents. The next phase of these Horcruxes was all about locking the actual rules of Bitcoin in stone, creating a system that could never, ever be changed. Now, this four-part framework is absolutely central to the whole theory. First, you have the BSV association, which acts like a guardian for the original protocol. Then, the network access rules legally force miners to play by the rules. After that, digital asset recovery actually brings the courts into the system, allowing them to seize assets lawfully. And finally, Teranode provides the engine for unbelievable scale. Put them all together, and you've basically built a fortress around Bitcoin's original design. And this table just lays it out perfectly. It really shows you the fundamental philosophical shift at the heart of this whole theory. It's about moving from that wild west of early crypto to a system that's designed to work with the law, not against it. And now we get to the most shocking, the most unbelievable part of this entire theory. The final Horcrux, well, it wasn't a trust or a patent. It was the creator himself. The plan allegedly involved the deliberate strategic destruction of his own identity. So here is the ultimate twist. The theory argues that the COPA trial, that's the big Crypto Open Patent Alliance case that challenged Dr. Wright's claim to be Satoshi, wasn't a failure. It was the endgame. The goal was to get a court of law to officially kill the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, leaving only the protocol behind, standing on its own. I mean, what a wild, grand theory, right? A story for the ages. But this grand narrative was about to meet an immovable object, the High Court of Justice in the UK. And right here, this is where the whole story just slams into a brick wall. On one side, you have this incredible, multi-layered strategy of a genius playing 4D chess, and on the other, a simple, powerful, legally binding verdict from a judge. No. And the court's decision wasn't just a suggestion, it was a hammer blow. It didn't just question the claim, it absolutely obliterated it. As you can see, the court found that Dr. Wright was not the author of the white paper, he did not operate as Satoshi, and he did not create the Bitcoin system. Full stop. So, where does that leave us? We're in this really strange and fascinating place. We have this epic story of a creator's grand design for Bitcoin's future, and a legal ruling that says the storyteller isn't who he claims to be. How do you even begin to reconcile these two realities? This is so much more than a simple he said, she said. It's a clash of entire worldviews. One side sees a hidden genius, a story told in code and legal documents. The other side sees a legal system that demands cold, hard, verifiable proof. It's really a battle between myth and forensics. In the end, it almost doesn't matter if you believe the Horcrux theory or if you believe the court's verdict. The result is pretty much the same. Satoshi Nakamoto is, for all legal and practical purposes, a ghost. And that leaves us with the biggest question of all. If the creator is gone, who's actually in control of Bitcoin's destiny? And that is a question that everyone in crypto is trying to answer right now.